You're listening to The Extraction, conversations on the systems and strategies behind dental practice growth with Colin Ambler and Kyle Bergman. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Extraction. We have our first ever guest. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome Dr. Sharon Bleiler, co-founder at Team Care, who is joining us today. Sharon, how are you?
I'm so excited to do this with you guys and talk about dental practices. I mean, what Team Care has done for our practice. We're just a regular dental practice, and it's changed the way we do everything, has made us grow in ways we never could. So I'm so excited. I love talking about this stuff.
I love hearing you talk about it because there's so much passion and you and Colin are really solving a problem. So I'd love to jump right into it. Take us back to the pre-Team Care days. You are a dentist owner along with Colin, and talk us through some of the pain points that you were experiencing.
I would love to. So 10 years ago, actually, I opened the practice. I was not really doing that well. As many general dentists, we just want to perform dentistry. And the business side was very hard. I didn't really know what was going on. I would come home and Colin would say to me, "How's this going? How's that going?" He'd ask me business questions that I really didn't know. And Colin finally was like, "I think I got to come in there and see what's going on." So Carl came in, thank God, and he started to look at things and, a regular PMS, our practice managed software. He didn't answer a lot of the everyday questions and didn't really help us do certain things that Colin, as a business person, knew. So that's kind of how it started. He would say, "Well, how do we know if these people came back? How do we know if the treatment plan you did, people actually did it or didn't do it, or why?" And I would always say, I don't know. I'm not sure how we do that. So, first we started, as you probably heard from Colin before, we were doing it on spreadsheets, trying to fix some of these problems that the dental software doesn't address. And Colin, being the person he is who can build software, built Team Care. And from there, boom, Noble Dentistry went from, really a very average to low average office to taking off to, us being able to run associates and provide great care and do well, to have the practice thrive and still take care of our patients, which is all we want.
It's amazing. So within a 10-year time frame, you opened Noble Dentistry. It was just you at the beginning, and I believe you had a close friend who was maybe a part-time hygienist helping clean teeth. You were cleaning teeth. There were some nights where you were sleeping on the couch at the office,
Yes.
right? And it
Yep.
was really you
We're
and
not doing
Colin
well.
at the beginning.
Yes.
Fast forward, and it's a 14 operatory, 7 associate dentist practice today.
Right. Yep. And I practice half a day a week and, still running it, backing my way out, getting some really great people in the management level now who can run it without me. The thing about Team Care is it's always giving you constant visibility into your practice. I could be anywhere and see what's going on and see where we're having, as in any dental practice, one wheel is always falling off the wagon and you got to get it back on. Probably any business is like that. I only know dentistry. There's nothing like this, that you can kind of see every person individually in the practice and see where things are. Maybe, someone's not doing as well of a job, or maybe needs some help and coaching, or people who are killing it can be recognized. It does all these things for everyone in the practice.
And so you just told a great story of how you were a dentist trained, not as experienced on the business side of things. Colin, who has a business background, came in, started asking business questions. And the story could have stopped there, where you both just kind of ride off into the sunset with someone who has a stronger business acumen, someone who's an amazing dentist. And there's thousands of practices out there today that do just that. Before we got all hopped on this episode, Colin was sharing a really interesting story that I'd love for him to jump in. You both did an amazing trip together, which was part of the motivation for developing a tool that allowed you to see how the practice is doing and to manage from afar. Colin, I know you've been quiet and chomping at the bit, but can you hop in and tell us a little bit?
Sure. I think one of the phrases that comes to mind with this, and it's ironically part of my shirt, when the cat's away, the mice will play. And I think that every business owner has probably experienced that at some level. And when we were growing the practice, we like to go on boating stuff. We're boaters, I guess. Some would call us
Voters.
extreme boaters. One time when we were in Philadelphia, I had a sailboat in Chicago. I moved it back to Philadelphia. One time we sailed our boat to Walmart, which is a mile down the street, and we went shopping off of our sailboat, which didn't really go that well. And then we decided to go a little bit further. We took our boat all the way down to the Chesapeake. We woke up at 4 a.m. and had to play the tides, and we did a little bit long-term boating. And then I had told Sharon this idea is this thing out there. It's called the Great Loop. And the Great Loop is a 6,000-mile boat trip that goes up the entire East Coast, through the Erie Canal, through the Great Lakes, connect to the Mississippi River through Chicago, down until you hit the Gulf of America, and then you connect back to where you started. And once you've quote unquote crossed your own wake, then you've completed the Great Loop. You've done the full circle of 6,000 miles and you've stopped where you've started. And so the extreme people that we are, we decided that we were going to do this trip and manage this growing business of noble dentistry in parallel. And a lot of people take on this Great Loop as a retirement trip. They just go out there once they're done and they take it slow, one day at a time. We did not do that. We flew into one airport where the boat was parked and we throttled down pretty much as fast as the no wake zones would permit us. And we traveled about 300 miles we would leave the office on a Wednesday afternoon and we'd fly home on a Sunday night, and we would get the boat to another airport and fly back. And we did that twice a month, every month for an entire year, so that we finished all 6,000 miles. And back to the idea of the cat's away, the mice will play. We were leaving the office. We're open 6 days a week. We're open 13 hours a day. And we knew damn well that when we left the office that things were not going to be the same if we couldn't keep tabs on people and hold them accountable, or shift the motivation so that they didn't want to be lazy, that they had skin in the game to want to grow the business just as much as we did. And so the ideas of a remote way to hold people accountable and track activity, that was really the birthplace of our iPhone app. I wanted to be on the boat in the middle of Mississippi and look at our leaderboards and what people have done. And accountability wasn't enough. I wanted our staff members to be aligned and want to earn more and achieve, the practice growth for their own interests with our incentives. And so we were doing a lot of this stuff, spreadsheets and whatever. But the idea to make it centralized where everyone could have visibility on it anywhere they were, including the Mississippi River, kind of came from a place of necessity when we were doing the Great Loop. And that's how it came to be, with like a formalized system that was like available on a phone.
And the thing that should not go without just underlining, highlighting, double circling, whatever you want to talk about it, is you started out by describing team care as almost like a big brother type of, I wanted to make sure that we could keep an eye on the practice. And that's fair. But what I think was brilliant was you said, well, instead of just keeping an eye on them and making sure that they're doing their job, why don't we incentivize them? Saying that you said to me recently, you pay people hourly to show up, you incentivize them to do the job. And that is something that really is going to become one of the mantra or for a lot of practices that use team care and that use incentives. But okay, so we've laid the foundation, why team care, the pain points experienced before, and what I want to spend the rest of our time now, about 10, 15 minutes, is really highlighting one of Dr. Sharon's superpowers, which is as a manager, as a really effective coach and leader within the practice, it's one thing to finally have insights into what is working and what isn't working. And it's a whole nother can of worms to be able to use that data and coach effectively to it. One of the things that Dr. Sharon said early on in a conversation that we were all having when I was newer to team care was, I'm a great manager and a great business owner because I was a great mom first.
Sure.
And that always stuck with me. And so, Sharon, can you talk a little bit about what you meant by that?
That's so true. I feel like that. And even when you guys are talking, like, it isn't just like keeping an eye on it. It's like making your staff excited. You go into work every day, you can be the person who does more than anyone else, and they can come and go and no one knows. You can be the person who does less than other people and no one knows. And that's the thing about team care. You're constantly being recognized for what you do. Sometimes that's incentive enough just to know, wow, look at my numbers, the leaderboards. It gets people excited. But I would say the number one thing I love about team care is, you just said, Kyle, sometimes people don't even know. They know they're not succeeding in whatever their position might be. Maybe it's a doctor talking to a patient. Maybe it's a treatment plan coordinator presenting money, but they don't know what to do. And sometimes as the manager leader, maybe you can't put your finger on it. You're not sure why, like, is this person okay? You don't know the numbers. And you start to, when that person can start to see their success rates, they can be honest with themselves and say, wow, I'm really not doing well at this skill. It's a great place for a doctor or manager or a coach or anything to be able to come in and say, when you present, your success rate is this. Let's talk about it. What are the words you're using? What's your body language? Where do you feel like someone actually understood the treatment they needed versus they got glazed over? That is so big for people. Everybody wants to grow. Everyone wants to learn and grow. No one wants to go to work every day and just, stamp out stuff. So when they start to do that, it's exciting for them. And the numbers don't lie. So once they see the numbers, it makes you really face, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and it just opens that door to speak to it. And at every single level, we do that. And people love it. People love it. They start to talk about what works for them. You're making dialogue, not only as a manager leader, but between each other too.
So, would you say that you wish you had leaderboards as a mom growing up to give visibility?
Well, I will say this. I had, not all the time, but there was different times in their lives that we had chore charts, and that was
There
definitely
we
a
go.
leaderboard. And I would say with a chore chart, you could have some children that were automatically motivated just because they wanted to get stars or things, and some children needed to be promised actual goods. They wanted like actual products at
Merchandise.
the end of that month. Yes. Yes, just like anyone else. So yeah, no, I think a leaderboard for kids, yeah, used correctly could work. Yes. But I think a chore chart is a leaderboard. And I think everyone has had a chore chart at some point in their life, in their family or whatever. So yeah, I guess it's
And
similar.
joking aside, the psychology of a leaderboard for adults is that we're all children. Like, people, if you want to be recognized and you're a little butthurt if you're not, then that's your that's your inner child and your ego getting in the way. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone loves recognition as much as maybe some people want to abide by stoicism and do their best Marcus Aurelius impression. We want to, hey, a lot of people are golden retrievers. Just tell me I'm a good boy, and that makes my day.
Yes.
And so when you have that type of visibility, it's really powerful. So we're gonna put rubber to the road in a couple scenarios here, which I'm really excited to do for our listeners who aren't watching this. We're going to share a screen. We're going to share a couple of screens within the Team Care app, and we're going to show these leaderboards that we're talking about. And we'll describe what is on the screen. And I am going to be one of the doctors or hygienist or front desk person. Sharon is going to manage me. Why this is really important is that right now, at thousands of practices around the country, office managers and owners just don't have visibility into how people are performing. And so right there, team care is adding value. But where it really becomes magical is seeing how you can manage effectively based off of data. So let's go ahead and jump in. We are
Do you want
going
me to
to
share?
share.
You're gonna share.
I'll share. I got it pulled up. So here we go. We have anonymized the providers here. So this really cuts down on the post-production editing. Thank you, Colin, for adding this. So what we're looking at here, again, if you're a listener, is we can see a list of providers. Their names are anonymized. We're showing financial metrics as far as their production, their collection, how many days they have been working. We're looking at July to date numbers. Right now, we're recording this towards the end of July. There's also a section where we look at exams, the total number of exams that they've done for the month, the new patients that they've done exams on, number of days, the average dollar amount, average production per exam. So ton of data here, and it's very easy for you to quickly see whether it's your children doing chores or it's the actual associate dentists who are helping run your business, who's performing well, who isn't performing well. Dr. Sharon, what jumps out to you here, and like what do you look at when you're looking at this, whether it's on the mobile app or you're jumping into the desktop version?
So, number one for me with every doctor is starting with exams. Now, I'm sure managers and owner docs, or some associates will come to you and say, I'm not getting enough exams. I'm not getting enough exams. And when you can sit down and show them, if you have 150 to 175 exams, you should be able, to do pretty well. So if a doctor is saying, I'm not doing well, I think I'm not getting enough exams, they could be just grinding through the exams. But that's a great place to start. So I'll always look first at total number of exams. And then the number one best indicator, and Colin and I talk about this all the time, is their average presentation. Like, how much are they presenting? An associate doc should probably be somewhere between $400 and $600. And I'm not going to say my doctors are all doing that, but that's a very healthy average per presentation. I think that when you start to look at that with a doc, it's like what we just said, the numbers don't lie. If you are presenting at that's a healthy number. You start to try to look at what happened. Like, why are you not? What is your success rate? I think if you scroll over more, it will actually say like what you presented versus like what your success rate
You'd have to
was.
switch over the account, Kyle, just to get to the regular one. But I
Okay.
think
But we don't,
one of the
yeah, we don't have
things
to. Go ahead,
that
Carl.
one of the things that I like to mention on this is the exam distribution. I think that pre-team care, there was a lot of like, kind of catty stuff going on. Like, that doctor gets all the new patients. I don't get any exams. It's not, it's like, it's not fair. And that was because there was kind of this black box of, when you work with the dentrix and stuff like that, they just don't report information in this way that's digestible. Like, it's very hard to extract this stuff. And so I think immediately this was like just a silencer. It's like our goal, and then we made this as a cultural policy. It's like our goal is to give everyone equal opportunity. And we're not passing favorites with, hey, you get more exams than you. And we let the numbers kind of speak for themselves. And so it's very common for this becomes like a front desk kind of like guide North Star, where
Yes.
we ask them to look at this, and when we're deciding on giving out new patient exams or giving out exams for the evening and making those doctor assignments, that the guidance is to look at this and say everyone should have around about the same amount, everyone gets equal opportunity. And when you come up with that, you have this equal opportunity. It's on the doctor to say, hey, we all got the equal amount, but we all have different production amounts. And so there must be something inward looking about, if I'm not satisfied with my production, it must be because of me. It's not that because I got gypped from the opportunity side.
So,
And it really,
so
it helps the manager and the managing doctor. You're looking at this from the beginning of the month. You're not waiting till day number 28 and be like, crap, so and so didn't get enough. If you're looking at it every day, you can even it out. It's a straight, clear shot that everyone can see it. So the visibility is amazing for everyone. Sorry, Kyle.
that's amazing. And so we're looking at one of the providers here down towards the bottom, their average uh, per presentation is underneath the threshold that you mentioned. You're looking for 400 to 600. We have someone here at 275. If I'm that doctor, how are you coaching me, or how are you managing me, Sharon?
That's an awesome question. This is like my favorite. So what I would do is sit down with you, and actually this is the most amazing thing at this point. I think, well, two most amazing things Team Care does, but I can literally go in to all your treatment plans that were not accepted, and we write down, and it's all getting pulled right out of your PMS. You don't have to do anything. The treatment plan coordinator might make a short note on why someone deferred. Now I'm getting to sit down with someone and say, okay, let's look through the last couple of days. Let's look at the notes on here. If the notes are patient didn't even think the doctor told they needed a crown, and the doctor saying to me, no, I told them, I can start to say to them, you know what, that patient didn't understand. You might think you told them, but what you said, they had no concept of why they needed a crown or what a crown was. And that happens more than you think. And a lot of times associate doctors walk out of the room and they're like, I told them they needed a crown. They booked it. Or they think, oh, they didn't book it. The front desk must have done something to lose the deal. So when you start to see the notes and it says patient didn't even understand that they needed a crown, the doctors are shocked. And now you can start to say, hey, no one knows what a crown is. No one knows that their tooth, they already have a huge filling, and now there's only a small amount of tooth left and it can break, and this is what will happen. And once you teach them that, and they have that eureka moment when they can go in and talk to a patient and the patient fully understands and says, this is what the patient say. No one ever explained it to me like that before. Yes, I want to go ahead. I want to save my tooth. That's the magic sauce, because that doctor now understands, wow, I was not communicating why they needed that. When you're a doctor, it's like if you're a mechanic or anything, that someone needs a carburetor. And I'm like, I would say, I don't need a carburetor. Nothing wrong. So, I mean, till you can explain to someone why they need it and what will happen if they don't, you might be a good diagnoser, but you're not a good doctor. You haven't explained that of why they needed that.
Yep. One other thing that both of you have told me, I think this comes from Sharon, and it's so eye-opening, is that the business of dentistry is not taught in dental school. And so you get a lot of people that are really good in the mouth, but they have a terrible bedside manner. And to be a successful dentist, to make the type of money that motivates people to get into dentistry in the first place, you have to be a salesperson. There's a lot of saying salesperson is kind of icky. People don't like that, but all you're doing is helping people realize their dream. That's what you want your team to do. And so when you have the leaderboard and the numbers and you're able to, hey, look, you're obviously not good at making money for the practice because there's something in the way that you're presenting it. And that's where, Sharon, you have a lot of skill in helping people do that. And that's one of the takeaways from this specific episode is if you are an office manager or dentist or an owner, using data to coach your team effectively can change everything. Colin, what were you going to say?
Yeah, speaking about coaching, I'm like, there's like a really, I think, like baseball analogy kind of thing that comes to mind. I think that, people tracking treatment plans, hey, I presented this treatment plan and the patient said I have to ask my wife. Like that's one form of really critical feedback but one thing that I saw that was probably one of my most interesting stats that we've tracked is how many times you don't present. And it's meant to say like it's like if you're a baseball and you're want to improve your batting average and get on base more and stuff like that, like one of the questions you might look at is, well, how many times when you step up to the plate do you take a swing at the ball? And like, if you don't swing, you're not going to get on base and there's nothing there. And so like, we started tracking treatment plans. And I think the common thing was to say, well, you present too much, too little. And nobody really started to track like, well, out of how many times are we talking about this? You know, do you present 10% of the time? Do you present 100% of the time? Do you like, how often do you present? And I think a lot of people that are underproducing find that like they're just not presenting at all. They're all like, there is a middle ground of too conservative. You know, if you saw 100 patients in your office and you presented 100 out of 100, that you would be too aggressive. If you presented 10% out of 100, you would be far too conservative. And I think like with this, we've always tried to find this middle ground of like, what is that magic number? You know, when we look at really large numbers, what's the appropriate kind of benchmark to guide us on that sweet spot of how often should you be presenting treatment plans? And I think even before you get into coaching about the failures, there's something to be said about, well, how often are you really diagnosing? How often are you presenting treatment to people? For underproducing dentists, it's often like, you know, far too little and they don't realize it. And so I think tracking the times that you just did not present is really important. And then linking that back to the support staff, the hygienists that we're trying to like help cultivate a treatment plan. You know, it's like there's hygienists out there that are very happy to say, see you in 6 months, see you in 6 months, see you in 6 months, and pass people
Yes.
through. And that's arguably negligent. It's like there's things going wrong and they're kind of careless. And I think there's a lot of insights to look at. How much do you not present? And what are you leaving on the table by doing that?
Yeah. And
That's
I
it.
think that's a
That's
good point about like, well, I'm sorry, about like you're not just coaching doctors, you're coaching hygienists and front desk.
And that is a double good segue into the hygiene leaderboard. Well, actually, let me ask both of you. I mean, Colin, we got enough time to look at one more leaderboard? Do we want to look at front desk? Do we want to look at hygiene? Or do we want to look at reactivation?
Let's look at, we can look at hygiene or we can look at front desk. Yeah, let's do it. Let me share.
Yeah, let's.
One of the things that I really like about the front desk is that we also track personal collections and we track activity in terms of number of checkouts. Like, how many patients did you handle at your desk? And I think there's like an equality piece here that is really important because I think in some front desks I've seen, there's like one person that does all the work and like it's not fair. And they just say, oh, treatment plan. Like, and I think there's, you know, a really big awareness factor that comes when you start to see how many people are doing, how many patients and stuff like that. So I really like the front desk leaderboard to see how much are they presenting, how often are they getting patients scheduled, how much are they collecting, how much treatment did they complete, and like how many patients are they handling. I think this was like something the practice management systems as a whole don't track anything related to front desk. It's like everything is very provider specific. It's about hygienists, it's about doctors. And so this is something I think really unique about team care, that we get the front desk involved. Like, and it's really critical in the workflow of things, also to give feedback to the doctor. Like in the flow of a dental appointment, often a hygienist might see a patient first and start to like discuss some things. And then there's like this handoff when the doctor comes in next for like the formal exam process. And then there's another handoff when the doctor says, okay, these are the things we talked about. I'm going to have, you know, Colin or Andrew or Rose, you know, come in here and they're going to talk to you about your insurance or financials or, you know, things like that. And that's really good because it's good for the doctor not to get his hands messy in the financial stuff. You need the front desk involved. But it's like so common for the doctor to feel like when he left the room and passed it off to the front desk that the deal was closed. Like I talked to that person about a bridge or an implant or whatever, and the doctor like almost 100% of the time feels like when they left the room that the patient was extremely well educated and 100% bought into treatment. And it's only until you find out later that the patient didn't schedule or no call, no showed or whatever, that there was some kind of pitfall in this process. And it's really the front desk that is the keeper of that information. The front desk went in and said, okay, Mrs. Jones, it's going to be $250. And at that moment, that's when Mrs. Jones gives the feedback of, I don't know, or whatever, you know, money kind of talks at that point. And so, you know, there's front desk people that are really skilled at like salvaging that. Talking to the patient, finding a way. Is it financing? Are you nervous? What is it? Dr. Bleiler's amazing. You're in really good hands. Like, and kind of helping guide that along. Some front desks are very passive and just, oh, well, okay, see you later. And so it became really important for us. It's like, this is the crucial like sales close. This is when the patient's going to say yes or say no. They can say yes to the hygienist, yes to the doctor, but when it comes to paying money and scheduling appointments, it's in the front desk's hand. And so like this front desk leaderboard, like it was more important than almost anything else to understand who was doing what and having what kind of success rates, and using that as feedback to go back to the doctors and the hygienist about why the patient might have said no.
And while you're sharing your screen, Colin, I think it'd be great to show, I know one of Dr. Sharon's favorite parts of Team Care, which is the end of day email that gets sent
Mm.
out, the day sheet, which has the feedback that on a per patient basis that we're talking about right here.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull this up now. This is the
Yeah.
crucial kind of piece of information. So every day, we tried to encourage our staff, like our front desk, to have a debrief with the doctor and say, you know what, like all the patients that said yes, all the patients said no, like let's talk about it and let's have a little huddle about what happened. And that was kind of a hard thing to do. We're open 13 hours a day. There's a lot of hands in the cookie jar. It's like it was very impractical from a hands-on standpoint. But when we started to collect all this data about treatment plans and the outcomes of them, we started assembling this full digest of what happened throughout the day for that doctor. And, what you'll see is some summary information here about what was presented and what was accepted and scheduled, and then the itemized list. And these are organized per each of the hygienists. And I think there's like something interesting there to kind of think about the working relationships between the doctor and hygienist. For example, this patient healthy, referral healthy. They didn't have a very productive afternoon, but Relina might have been a little different. Maybe some filling they scheduled 15 days from now or 6 days from now. In the case of when a treatment plan was not accepted from the patient, the front desk, in this case, it was Andrew, they presented this bridge and the patient deferred, meaning they chose not to schedule. And in that case, there's a mandatory reason why the patient was not, what did the patient say? In this case, patient had trips coming up, wants to wait till next cleaning. This is something that when Sharon gets coaching time with doctors, it's like this smacks of like, it wasn't imminent. The patient didn't feel it was important. I'm going to go on 5 vacations and wait 6 months for this to happen. Like there's probably some kind of communication improvement that could happen between Dr. Mia and her patients when talking about this bridge. So maybe it's something where if we talk about bridges and you use that as an example, well, your teeth are going to collapse. The one's going to drop down in that empty space. There's a lot of different ways and tactics to be more like convincing in some ways about this. And you got to read between the lines on this stuff. So these notes that come from the front desk about why the patient said no are gold. Like this is really the way that turns this feedback into coaching tips. And when it comes back to the doctor, and the doctor gets to see this every single day at the end of their shift. It's probably their favorite email that they get. They get to see how much they produced and what their presentation success rates were.
And it's not only an email, right? It also, you can see this in app too, if you have the
Yeah.
app. Yeah.
Yep. You can see
And
the app.
also,
Awesome.
if you're
Comes
getting,
on the news feed. Yeah.
yeah, and also you have to, the other great thing about this is, we're about to have August 1st. You're doing this August 1st. You're not waiting till August 30th to talk about the month. You're talking about the month every single day. So there's constant corrections. You can't fix a bad month on August 29th or the 30th of the month. You got to fix it every single day and correct, or you won't hit goal. And that's a big problem. Like I think a lot of softwares or a lot of offices don't talk about stuff till the numbers at the end of the month. It's too late. It's like, it's got to be talked about all the way through. And also realize not only is the doctor and the hygienist on here, but the treatment plan coordinator. So it's keeping everyone is responsible for what they did that day, and everyone can take credit or be coached on what didn't go right.
That kind of brings us to an end here. Dr. Sharon, thank you for being our first guest. One of the things I wanted to get into is some Sharon isms that I've heard over the years. My favorite one is fill the funnel. And I know you got to make the
Yeah,
sign. Yeah. Like the YMCA, the
funnel.
Y, fill the funnel.
Yeah,
Any other that come to mind? Sharonisms that you got?
I
I'm
don't know. I can't think
I'm
of it
thinking
right now.
myself.
There's been some
And
others that
now some I don't know if might be
Inappropriate,
yeah.
inappropriate. Sharon,
inappropriate. But now I have to think of them. I don't know. I can't think of any right
the
now. But
geyser,
yeah,
the geyser.
I the guys are yeah, hygiene. Yeah, when we say the legs feed the wolf, we say hygiene's everything. And any doctor, manager, anything who doesn't know that hygiene feeds the beast, that's the number one thing you got to know. It's all about the hygiene. If you don't value hygiene in your office, you will never grow your practice.
And that you actually just mentioned something that I think is a great note to end on is if you're listening to this and you're an office manager or owner or even a team member at a practice and you're feeling stuck or you want to use team care or you just want to talk to Dr. Sharon, we're happy to make it happen.
Absolutely.
So reach out to us. Support at teamcaredental.com, and we will find a time to schedule a one-on-one where Dr. Sharon can look at your practice and help you out.
And
I mean,
and
we're doing the same thing every day that you're doing. Every day we're fighting the good fight, honestly. And the wheels are falling off our wagon, but we're like picking them up and running until we get it back on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think team care is cool. We get to oversee, hundreds of offices that are trying stuff out with their staff and incentives and observing different benchmark levels. And if you weren't going to mention it, Kyle, I will. We have an awesome webinar coming up this Friday. Ashley Morabito is hosting it, one of our super users that has turned into one of the practice growth coaches with us at Team Care, and she's going to talk about how she does treatment plans, how she does incentives, and she's got an amazing growing practice just down the street from you, actually, Kyle, Annapolis, Maryland, one of my favorite towns in the U.S. One of the stops on the Great Loop, actually, one of my favorites. So yeah, if you're listening, make sure you come back for the webinar this Friday.
Ashley is a beast. I love hearing her. I mean, she comes at it. She does. She comes at it as a manager, and sometimes she'll say something. I'm like, she is amazing. I'm definitely gonna be tuned in for that, and I'm very honored to be the first guest on with you guys, with the boys on the Extraction.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you all soon. Later.
Awesome.
Right.
Thanks for
Kyle.
having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Extraction with Colin Ambler and Kyle Bergman. Read episode notes and transcripts at teamcaredental.com.